Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you all so much for clicking on this video. And I know I've been dormant for a while with my videos, but I'm back, baby. So we are doing the biggest sci-fi action horror franchises of all time. And the Terminator, yes, the original Terminator is a horror film. We should not still be debating this. It's just a fact. Alien, which very few people would argue is a horror, very few people would argue isn't a horror film, and Predator, putting them all in their respective tiers, this entire franchise, and letting them go at odds with each other. And first up, we have Alien Covenant. We will go great with Alien Covenant. I really enjoyed this one. This is the last one I watched to get this ranking. I had seen all these films before except for Alien Resurrection, Prometheus, and Alien Covenant. I did a quick little binge of... I binged Resurrection and Prometheus in one night, and then I did Covenant the next night. And I finished it, I did most of Covenant that night, then I finished it today. And I really enjoyed this film. I really dug it. I felt like it's a bit of a rehash of Alien and Aliens. If you go through it, and like the fact that the colonists are like getting sick slowly, and like they're just getting a lot more, they're like really dying off and stuff. It's copying from mostly Alien, and then as soon as you get into like the third act, it's going a bit more into like Aliens territory. And there's some really cool stuff in here. Prometheus, when it goes into a Prometheus sequel, I'm not as big a fan of it. I do enjoy Prometheus, but I'm going to say it gets a bit too pretentious. It gets like, we're talking about the creator and stuff, and it's like, oh, I really did not like that part about Prometheus. I wanted an Alien prequel, not that part, so it gets a bit too pretentious for me. But as soon as we get into like the Alien stuff, sadly, which there's not as much of it, there's definitely more than there is in Prometheus, but there's barely any in Prometheus. But you get that like awesome shot of like the xenomorph on that like ship. That is, it might actually be the most now well-known shot of a xenomorph with him on that like thing. It's the poster of it. Like, a lot of people, this film did bomb, so sadly I don't think we're getting the third chapter in this. I really wish we could. Hopefully Romulus will be decent, because if Romulus sucks, I will be infuriated that is what we got instead of a third Ridley Scott one, because it's a really cool thing. It's brutal and violent and graphic, and it taps into more of the horror vibes of the previous ones. So I'm really a big fan of that. That it's a lot more horror centric, because I like that. But when they start getting into the CGI, it can be good, but it can also be not as good. Like we see like an alien in one scene like popping out of a guy's like neck and through back. It's a weird like neck, part of his neck and back. It's really violent, that scene, and like you see them coming out of a guy's mouth. A xenomorph comes out of a guy's mouth. You see the xenomorphs like using their tail and ripping off a jawbone. It is violent, and it is also fun. And David, he is one of the most fascinating characters within the last century. Within the century. He is definitely one of the most fascinating characters with AI. Alien has always secretly been about AI. You get that weird the guy in the first one that's an AI. You get I can't remember his name. I don't remember any of the AIs, to be honest, besides David, because he's probably the best. You get the one that's in Aliens and in Alien 3. That one, that AI. You get the one played by what is her name? Played by Winona Ryder in Alien Resurrection. So this is always Alien's mostly about the AI, so I enjoy that they're doing it. So I think it's a really good film, and I like how we get some xenomorph in here. When it's practical, it's good. It's a brutal film, which I enjoy, but I really hope Romulus gives us more xenomorph than this does, because it has its xenomorph, but it's kind of false marketing. That's one of the reasons it bombed, because when the first batch of people that watched Covenant in theaters went, and people were like, this is just all the xenomorph you guys are going to be wanting, and then people came out and were like, that is not what this is at all. Do not go and see this. So it did bomb, sadly. Well, it didn't really bomb. It made a lot less money than it should have, so Curse you for letting us not get our third chapter. Whoever saw that in theaters and didn't like it. But anyway, I did really enjoy this film. Now we have Terminator Salvation. And I know a lot of people like to pick on Christian Bale for the fact that he's doing the Batman voice that he should not be doing. And I think it's really interesting, some of the stuff here. I think it's extremely stupid, most of the things hailed at it. Like, the fact that people are saying, like, it's boring. It's the most slow-paced of any of the films. I'm not going to argue too much with that one. If you think it's boring, I'm not going to argue as much. But when you, like, say that this one is just the worst in the franchise, I know you're just totally wrong there. And there are far worse films in this franchise than Salvation. This one just had to get the short end of the stick. Because of some of the stuff that they had. And, like, what is it? The character played by Sam Worthington is awesome. So, I think it's good. Let me just place this in a great real quick. I'll put it behind Covenant, though. So, Christian Bale, he's awesome. I get it. The Batman voice. Moving on from that, keep in mind, he was, like, fresh off the heels of The Dark Knight. I mean, and like Rainbow likes to say, you just don't turn it off. So maybe he just couldn't turn off the voice. I mean, he did. I mean, a lot of people like to pick on his voice. He does in a lot of other projects too sometimes. I mean, he also does the Batman voice and other things. That's not ridiculous. I mean, for goodness sake, he did it in The Dark Knight Rises when there was no one watching. As soon as Catwoman just, like, disappears, there's no one with him, and he's like, and even though there's no one watching to hear him, he's still like, so that's what it feels like. There's nobody there to hear his Batman voice, and he still does it. So it's really hard to bring Christian Bale down to that without bringing up some of his other stuff. So I think that the big Terminators, like the really, really big ones, I'm more mixed on them. The Arnold CGI, like, naked thing that they do with, like, the Arnold thing, they use the camera in a pretty way where I can, like, tip my hat to where how they were able to still keep it PG-13, but you can still very clearly tell that Arnold is not wearing anything but the CGI that they had to use because Arnold was not able to be in it because he was the governor at that point. He was the governor of California, I think. I mean, the CGI that they used on him was unbelievably atrocious. I cannot believe it was that bad. I cannot stand that CGI. So I really wish that they could have just kept him to where, like, as soon as, like, John Connor, like, shoots him to where he's just, like, the endoskeleton, I really wish they could have done that because that would have been much cooler. Because of the outside, you could have probably you probably would have figured out sooner or later that it was the T-800. But I do really enjoy this film. So when people say that this is a bad film, I do not understand that at all because this is far from a bad film at all. Now we have The Predator. I will go bad. It is not a good film, but it is a watchable bad film. I do not really enjoy it too much, but I will say unashamedly, that first, like, 45 minutes, I really enjoy. And then we get to the stuff with, like, as soon as we get to, like the part about where we get the Predator, the big CG one, the one that's just that looks unbelievably bad, where they just go complete CGI, that is where it goes off the rails. The CGI that they use on him is awful. It is terrible, so it just goes completely off the rails there. There's no excuse. It's like Shane Black directed this, but it doesn't feel like it was Shane Black. It doesn't feel very Shane Black like. The dialogue is not as like Shane Black. I've only seen Iron Man 3, but I've been told that he's like the funniest guy on earth. And if that is true, then this is definitely not Shane Black because this is not very funny. There's one joke that I may have like smiled at, but other than that, it's just completely not the funniest at all. So I enjoyed this film to an extent of like the first 45 minutes, but after that, it just is so bad after like that, especially that like third act. But anyway, I'm gonna try not to make this thing like 10 hours long, so I'm not gonna rant on too many of them. Now we have Alien vs. Predator. I'm gonna make one adjustment here, and then I'm gonna move. I will move Salvation down to good. I will not put. I'll say it's really good. It's a 4-star film, but I'll keep it there. Alien vs Predator will go to great. I'm sorry, believe me. I do not ask for these opinions. I just receive them. So, Alien vs Predator, schlocky is the word I would use to describe this. It is not a good film at all, but it is an entertaining one. Because if we are going objectively, this is definitely lower. Actually, the pathetic thing is, this is actually better than both Alien 3 and... Oh, okay, no, it's better than Alien Resurrection if you're going objectively, but then Alien 3 is still better in terms of like its camera thing, because I hate Alien 3. I'm one of the biggest haters of Alien 3 probably ever, and I will still say it is well made in some departments, because David Fincher at least does some good stuff. But this is not a good film probably. I do really enjoy this film. So I think it's awesome. It has great like moments. The Predator here is stupid. I have no idea why. The Predators here are so big and bulky. Just so like big and muscly, and I'm like, what in the world? These are supposed to be children predators. If you're going to tell me that the children predators are that big, you are just lying. That is not what a predator looks like. For goodness sake, we got Predator and Predator 2 before this, and the predators in those were nowhere near as big as those ones. So I'm going to try not to rant. I'm really going into rant mode right now. I keep having to go like, turn it off. But I keep doing it, so I'm really sorry, guys. I really keep doing this. I'm going to try not to. So, now we have... Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. Awful. The definition of a terrible sequel. If you grew up with this film and say that you can at least enjoy it, but you know it's a bad film, I will not argue. If you're going to say, you know what, dude, I grew up with this film, I enjoy it for what it is. Is it good? No, but I at least have fun with it. I'll be like, okay, I won't argue there. If you grew up with this thing, you may have some nostalgia for it, so... I, on the other hand, did not. I am somebody who... I'm just going to spoil one little thing. I love T2. T2 is, right now, my favorite film of all time. Die Hard used to be... Die Hard is at number 2. It's like a razor thread. My entire top 5 is like just completely at odds. They will switch any day. One day, like, my number 5 will be my number 1. It's so difficult. So, T2 is great. And it is absolutely fantastic. And then T3 comes along and says, why don't we take this fantastic, flawless film and this absolutely flawless ending, and we undermine that and cut it all out to give us the most inferior sequel you guys could think of in this franchise. I hate it. Everything is awful. The humor is terrible. Like that scene where he's like, talk to the hand. And then he just like grabs the hand. It's like, now. That is an awful scene. And then when he brings it back up and he says, talk to the hand, that is ridiculous. The humor, every time they do humor, it falls flat on its face. It is laughable how bad the humor is at points. I thought that when I was going into this film, I was going to be like, yeah, it's probably not going to be the best one, but I think I may actually have a good time with this film. I thought Genisys was going to be my least favorite. This one is by far the worst. Not even close. Genisys is nowhere near as bad as this one. And I am telling you, if somebody's going to try and tell me this is better than T2, in any way this is wrong. Which I have someone that's been telling me that it's better because of the lore, and how it does a different continuity, and that I think the original said that you can there's no fate, but I mean that the future is already written, and that the 3 gives that back, because then it contradicts 2, which says 2 gives the new lore that there's no fate but what we make for ourselves. I think that's because 2 realized if the future is already written, if a Terminator is going to go back in time to kill somebody, then that means that if the future is already written, then there's no way to underdo it, and that even if Sarah Connor is killed, if it's already written, And that means that you can't change the future, and that a Terminator can still kill her, but John Connor will still live. That's literally a plot hole in the original film, if you think about it very much. So please keep that in mind, the person that keeps commenting T3 is better. Plus, if we take it on its own terms, there's no way you can literally tell me that T3, just in quality-wise, even if T2 had the same... if you could still get T2 to be the same, and it had the same thing of, like, no faithful... no, that's the thing of 2. Dang it. If you're going to tell me that T2 had the thing that said, the future's already written, if you're going to tell me that T3 is still better, you are lying. There is nothing that T2, that T3 does better, that T2 does not do better. Everything. The way that they're rehashing to such an extent, like, he is walking out of the bar, and then he puts on the glasses, and they're like weird, colorful, girly glasses, because he's subverting our expectations because of what he does in T2. It rehashes it in such a mediocrely terrible way. I hate this film. And let's just talk about the Terminatrix real quick. The worst villain in this entire franchise by a landslide. By a country mile. It's not even close. I hate the TX. She is played as a joke, and she is a joke. I laugh at some of the things that they do with her. She is so ridiculous. I can't stand this film. It deserves to rot in hell. It deserves to be destroyed. And there's someday I'm going to try and get a DVD of this film just so I can light it on fire and watch it burn. I hate it that much. Getting that out of the way, we'll go to an astronomically better film, Predators. And we will put Predators in gray. I love Predators. I do not understand the hate for this film. Actually, the audience score is actually pretty mediocrely low. It's only like at a 53 or something. And in some ways, it is a rehash of the original. But I love the original. So naturally, unless it's awful, I'm not gonna dislike this one. And I like how it does some things. Like it's one of the more violent films of the franchise, and I love me my violence and gore in some of these monster movies. So I do like seeing that stuff, and I think that there are some really good things. Adrian Brody doesn't bother me as much as he bothers a lot of other people. If you are like, I just can't get past him, he's a bit weird for me. I can understand. He's a bit like trying to do the Christian Bale voice and like just going super crazy. And that part where he's like covering himself in mud like Dutch. There's many points that just completely rehash it. Like the way that he's like covering himself up in mud and lighting it on fire to see that's very reminiscent of the third act of Predator. The way that the guy just stays behind to sacrifice himself and it goes along with the duel with the Predator. That's very reminiscent of what happens in the original one with I think it was not Mac. I said Mac last time. Mac was the guy that got shot in the head. He's the guy that got shot in the head. So the guy that I can't remember. The only people I really know the names of in the original team are Dutch, Mac, and Dylan. I always say Dylan because I love the way that Arnold uses that accent. Let's be honest, the one-liners, if they were used today from Predator, and if they remade Predator if Predator was just made today, the one-liners would not be nearly as classic. They are iconic for two reasons. Because Arnold is awesome and makes anything iconic that comes out of his mouth, and that accent, that pasta also like made something very clear to me. The reason that these one-liners are so great is because Arnold's accent is absolutely awesome. He makes anything iconic with that accent. Put that cookie down now. I'll be back. There's just so many awesome one-liners with that Austrian accent, so I do really enjoy it. So Predators, I do think it's a really cool duel with like the samurai thing. They do like try and get it different, like in the previous one. The person that sacrifices himself to like try and kill the Predator, he fails miserably. I didn't know that part about it. I didn't know. Sorry, not that part. How do I say this? I knew that he died, and most likely he did not even stand a chance In this, apparently, I think he failed awful, and just immediately died. In Predators, this guy actually is killed, but he takes the Predator with him. He like does this thing where like they like do this like really cool shot where like he slashes the blade and so does the Predator, and then you get a look, and then you see the Predator just drop, and then you see him like stumbling for a second, and then he just falls down. It's a really cool shot, so I do really enjoy this film. I'm gonna try and speed run through a few of these real quick. Prometheus. Now we have Prometheus. I will put this one in great as well. This is a thing where we're gonna get a lot of films in great. It will go at the back. Yeah, it's at back. I think that Prometheus, it's pretentious. It's the stuff there. I'm not the biggest fan of like about the creator and like the creator turning on the created, the created turning on the creator, and like just the stuff like it's just so unbelievably confusing at times. It's like I mean it's like I am so dumb. Can you please dump this down for me? So it's not as good in that department because a lot of the time you have the Xeno things. There's like this weird octopus thing in like the third act that I like to call it an octomorph. I don't think anyone's ever called it that. A lot of times because people don't mention it, but if you have noticed that, then you can easily just take the name that I use, call it an octomorph. It's hilarious. The way that it just has all these tentacles, and like Prometheus himself is cool, but he's a bit weirder in execution. But I do still really enjoy this film. Now we have Terminator Genisys, or what a lot of people will call Terminator Genisys or whatever. Now on paper, this one should be the worst. On paper, this one should be awful. But it's in bad, not awful. I would say it is definitely more watchable than T3. And I will put it in bad, but I will say it's at the back because I would rather watch The Predator. Whew. Okay, now this thing has some things working for it. I think Arnold's good in this. I think that I can't stand Arnold in T3. He is by far the worst version, and anyone that says otherwise is just wrong. T3 is easily the worst version. Now, Genisys, the version of Arnold, he's not the best. He gets annoying sometimes, but I think that he's still funny. Like the way that he just like goes completely into that like car windshield and he's like, "It's nice to meet you. Now get out." It's really hilarious. I think that's what he says. I haven't seen the movie in a while, so I didn't rewatch them all because that would have taken a long time. I've rewatched most of the Alien films. I need to get the first 3 done before Romulus comes out. Dang it, I have to rewatch Alien 3. Oh. Oh, man, I hate this film. We'll talk about it. Actually, yeah, I think I've covered Genisys enough. It's not really a good film. It's like one that I would say it just goes so bonkers. It's like one of those films that just is so dumb and weird and just bonkers weird. I have fun with it in some regards, but it is not a good film. It is definitely not a good film. But it at least tried something new. It tried to do something, and did it fall on his face? Yes. But it fell on its face. It was doing something new. Meanwhile, T3 fell on its face much, much harder, and it did the same thing as T2. So, that is the reason why it is above T3. And now we have Alien 3. If anyone has known me for a tiny period of time and knows my opinion on aliens, then they will know where this one is going. Awful. I despise this film with every bone and fiber in my body. I can't stand this film. And it's not because of the terrible CGI. It is not because of the cinematography. It is not because of what they do with David Fincher and like they kicked him out in some ways. So it technically shouldn't even be in his filmography. He is all but disowned this. He has just disowned this film. He does not like it. He has very much said that he does not, that he thinks it is a terrible film and that he hates what they did. And as well as the fact that James Cameron considers this a slap in the face, considering what Aliens did, and how this thing takes the victory of Aliens where Newt has been having nightmares the entire time, and she's just so scared, and then she's finally able to rest, and how she is like, you can now sleep. Ripley said that to her, and it's just such a satisfying ending. Surprise! That doesn't happen. Remember? Ripley was wrong. Apparently, that there was still a xenomorph in there, which makes no sense in the continuity of the fact that that does not happen in Aliens. There's no time where they could have done that. It is a complete plot hole. There's many plot holes in a few of these movies, like especially one that I'm trying to think of. I'm looking at one of them. I'm trying to find one. I know there's a plot hole in one of them. Well, several plot holes if you just think about it. But Alien 3, it is such a terrible film, but it's a miserable experience. Like, upon the first 5 minutes of what they do with Newton Hicks, who are such great characters, when they do that to them, I hated it. I couldn't even stand it. I hated this film before I saw it because I loved Alien so much. It was one of my favorite films of all time. It is still easily in my top 5 of all time. And watching what they did was a slap in the face, knowing that they just took that amazing ending and just took it away from me. I held it near and dear to my heart. I can't do that anymore because I just know that there's a sequel that tried to undermine it. I take a page out of Haas's book and what he does with T3. I do this with T3, Alien 3, and pretty much all the movies and most of the movies in this in these, like the Terminator sequels as well as the Alien sequels. I just consider fan fiction. I do not. The only ones I consider in the Alien and Terminator franchise canon are the first two. After that, it's just fan fiction completely. They just got some of the actors back from the previous one. So, Alien 3, I despise. I hate it. And I just absolutely hate it. And the fact that we also get a dog that just, like, suffers and is just, like, dying slowly, and then it just, a, like, chest burster bursts out of it, like, with, and now it's, like, mixed with dog DNA, so it looks a bit more different. I just hate it. I hate it. Apparently in the assembly cut's a cow. But I don't want to see the assembly cut because I think I would need to like either get the DVD or the digital edition. Unless it's on sale like in like a pack with Aliens, I'm not getting this. I hate this film. And I wish I could say I would never watch it again, but I will watch it again. And I will have to, and I will suffer through every second of this film. And now we have Predator 2. It's okay. I'll go okay. Now, I know I'm not the biggest fan of this film. I know there are a lot of people that are like, this film is awesome. For me, it feels kind of like a combination. It feels like Lethal Weapon 2.5. Where it has that thing with, like, it has Gary Busey. It has, what's his face? He plays Murtaugh in Lethal Weapon. I can't remember his name. Hopefully it'll click soon. I'll think of it soon, I think. But a lot of the cast is actually plucked from the Lethal Weapon films, and I think that the design of the Predator is good, but some of the things like the CGI is atrocious, especially some of the shots like there's like one kill, and the way that it like falls or something falls. I know something falls down. The shot looks laughably bad. It is unbelievable. It has aged terrible. It ages terribly, so I hate that part about it. Like, the effects are awful, and they really age terribly, so I think it's a film that just ages worse as it goes along with, like, the plot and, like, the way that there's, like, just so many, like, weird guys, like these weird bad guys, and then the Predator taking them out. It's like, it just keeps changing genres. Is it like a police investigation one? Is it a Predator film? Is it like a Predator film mixed with a police one? It is just so weird. I have fun with it, but it's watchable, but it's just not the best in the franchise. It's not even close. Now we have the original, the classic Alien, the first edition in awesome. I adore Alien. Everything about Alien, I love. I do not have a single negative except for one little thing, and it's that the Xenomorph has aged a tiny bit, and then aliens really though they really listened to the fan base. Actually, they didn't really listen to the fan base because it looked actually pretty good when it came out, I think. So I think it is one of the most terrifying films of all time for a lot of people, and I am not scared by it. Like the scene with the chest burster, that was pretty disturbing for me because I watched it. I was still like the brave boy. This was like around the time where you guys like knew me as like the YouTuber that just like watched movies, so I was still around like that type of maturity thing with that. So I was still somebody who was not like, ah! But I was like, wow, the way that he's just screaming, it's just like, stop it, stop it, stop it. It's like that meme with the main character of Halloween 3 going like, stop it, stop it, stop it. I bet that he was watching that chestburster scene in Alien 3. I know he wasn't. I haven't seen Halloween 3, but I'm just making a joke. So I do love Alien. It is a masterpiece. It is just a great film. So I am happy and awesome. It will stay there, and sadly will actually be topped soon, but still, it is awesome. Now we have, in the complete polar opposite direction, Alien vs. Predator Requiem. I hate this film. I think it's a travesty to humanity. And this film will go in awful. It will go in the middle, though. I would say I would rather rewatch it because, say what you want, the opening to this is nowhere near as bad as the opening in Alien 3. The opening in Alien 3 is just unforgivable. I can't look past that. It's just too offensive to me. I will not look past that. I don't care if it's well made. I don't care. I recognize that it is. But I don't give a flying flip that Alien 3 is well made. It is still just an unforgivable film. This is also awful. It is just so tonally dark in the fact that there's so many awful scenes, like within the first 15 minutes you have a face hugger attacking a kid under 10 years old. Well, actually, he's like under 10 years old, and then we see a chest burster popping out of his stomach, and it looks awful. It's just so dark. And then we have, that scene alone was like, ugh. Like, the way that, I like, it does that too, where within the opening scene, we get a scene where, as a lot of people will know, Pennywise does rip off Georgie's arm and drags him into the sewer. But the thing that's different is, It 2017 is a great film. This is not. And another thing is also that what drives the kids forward in this film in It 2017 is that Georgie was killed, and that they're wanting to stop the clown, and so they know that that's the way that they can get away with that because it's necessary to the plot. This was not necessary at all. It was shock value. They thought it was just fun to see what's the nastiest thing we can think of. But that alone, if that was just in there, I would have been like, okay, that was a bit mean for the opening. Maybe I've done that later. But it's that they continue to do it. Like, then we have the entire hospital scene where, where one of them is where we get a xenomorph walking past a room full of babies that are crying. And we know what xenomorphs do. They are just complete irrational creatures. Terrifying beasts. Unbelievably awful things. So we know what was going to happen to the babies. Where we know that the xenomorph did eat those babies, which was awful. I still hate that they did that. It is just so totally dark. Film Kid, you say this is your least favorite film of all time? That is a great pick. Because this film is that bad. It is that bad. And then the worst part about it is that scene with the pregnant woman. We get a scene involving a woman 9 months pregnant, and then her water breaks. A great time to get a xenomorph to come in and then impregnate her with a bunch of chest bursters that then pop out of her stomach. That alone. Oh, okay. If that kid thing at the beginning did not get me angry alone, then the thing with the hospital with the babies and the xenomorph, that definitely would have. That was just the icing on the infuriatingly big, awful piece of poop of a cake that it was. It's totally dark. It's awful. It has terrible characters, terrible pacing. It is abysmal. I can't stand it. And I despise this film with every bone and fiber in my body. I hate it. It is terrible, unwatchable, and you can't see anything. And I think the design of the wolf predator is cool. I think the design of the pred alien is good. Other than that, it's just a complete dumpster fire from start to finish, and I hate this film. Not much better though. We have Alien Resurrection, and this will go in bad, and it's going at the back of bad. I'm not a fan. I am not a fan of this one. This one is just such a weird tonal shift from the first three. The first three, even three, which is not a good film at all. I despise Alien 3, but it's definitely more. It's definitely more in line with the first two than Resurrection is. Resurrection feels a lot more like it's almost like a spoof. Resurrection then thought it was a weird idea to do things like we get that horrendous human alien. I mean that alien hybrid thing. I can't stand that hybrid thing that we get in like the last little bit. It was not on good ground as it was before, but as soon as we get to that third act, I just completely lose track. I just hate it from now on. So I do not like this film. I think that it's just such a spoof, and like it has a lot more sexual innuendos in this one. Like some of the scenes like that have aged well with like that scene in the underwater. That's a cool scene. But this film is not a good film. It is a pretty bad film, so I'm not a fan. So it is definitely, it is, and I actually do think it's pretty funny how we go from the first two Alien, how it is such a kick in the nuts quality-wise, how we go from the first two Alien films of Alien and Aliens, and then you go to Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection. Such a big tonal shift and such a big drop in quality. I cannot believe that they went that far down. And now we have the Terminator. Such a big leap in quality, thank God. Now, I'm going to put this one in awesome. This one is fantastic. And I was really wanting to get some more of like these like personalized tiers. Like I was going to probably do something like for awesome. I would have probably replaced it with like It Will Be Back. I just couldn't think of enough like to use for all three franchises. Predator and Alien were like mostly the ones quotable. You could use for Terminator. There's a lot of quotable stuff I could have put there. But I love the Terminator. That scene where like I'll be back. Fantastic. That scene, everything is just so great. Even that scene with Sarah Connor and Michael Biehn, Kyle Reese. Even that scene where they have sex, where I have not seen the full version of that. I had skipped. I know what happens. It's the most important scene in the entire film, actually. Not the I'll Be Back. That's the most iconic scene, but it is just a fantastic scene, and it leads into it's one of the most important scenes in cinematic history, because it leads into the events of what would happen throughout the entire franchise. So it is awesome. Arnold's great, and he is a great villain. This is a horror film. There's no debate. We should not still be arguing about this. There is no debate. So this is an awesome film. So it is awesome, and it is going in the awesome tier. Okay, quick little disclaimer, guys. Luckily, the ones that I really hated talking about, the ones that I go into rant mode with that I hate, luckily they are over with. So now we can at least just relax with some good films. And now we have Predator. We will put this one in awesome. I love this film. Just such a rewatchable film. The most manly testosterone film of all time. I love it. It has great pacing, and it is just awesome. Not a single act I hate. I think all three acts are entertaining. Like the first one where they're like slowly piecing together some of the stuff is awesome. Everything about it is awesome. It's a perfect film in my opinion. I have zero negatives with the film. I love it for what it is, and it is easily at the top of awesome. So I love it, and it is easily one of my favorite films. It is definitely my top 5 of all time. So I love Predator. And now we have Terminator Dark Fate. The definition of a film that people just hate for one reason alone. And that is the opening scene. And I have to say, if you're just someone that saw the opening scene and then heard about the opening scene and then said, You didn't even give the film a chance, but then immediately went on to social media to say this film was awful. Wow, you are terrible. Because I can tell you, this film is awesome. This is by far the best Terminator sequel since Judgment Day. Actually, not by far. Salvation's also pretty much up there as well. So, I think right now I will go behind Prometheus. This could change anytime. Prometheus and Dark Fate are like that. So I do enjoy it. I think it gets a bit over the top at times, but seriously, the fact that people went so crazy because of what they do in the opening act with John Connor. Quick little disclaimer. None of you guys, I've seen the Terminator rankings before Dark Fate came out. No one gave a flying flip about John Connor. Nobody mentioned him, ever. They were always like, oh man, Sarah Connor's so awesome. Oh man, Arnold's Terminator is so awesome in this. Arnold's Terminator is just so awful in the way he's utilizing Genisys and blah blah blah. And everyone, and the few people that actually did mention John Connor were just like, John Connor sucks in this version. It's like T3 really hurt the way that they used John Connor. Terminator Genisys was such a slap in the face to John Connor fans. Seriously? You guys hated John Connor. Why is it that you're now defending him? Because the only difference is, the reason that they probably killed him off is because A, it made sense. Because it was to reframe the timeline, so that way we could have gotten a... It was to reframe the timeline, and it didn't take... A lot of people are saying this takes away the victory of Judgment Day. No, it doesn't. We still have the victory of Judgment Day intact. Skynet has been destroyed. And even when they bring up Skynet to people, like I think it was like Grace, or they bring it up to someone, and the person that they bring it up to is like, "What's Skynet?" So Skynet's been erased, which does it. Everything in Judgment Day is still intact. They just found a reason to hate this film, and the people that just call it somewhat woke, that is the most ridiculous argument I've heard of in my entire life. It is incredibly stupid, and anyone that says otherwise is just wrong. This film is awesome. It has great action, set pieces. It has a lot more hand-to-hand combat than I was expecting in this film. It's awesome. I think Arnold is utilized really well in this film. Not everything lands with him, but he is still pretty awesome. I think it would also would have been a better idea if he had a gun shop instead of a curtain shop. But he still was pretty funny. He brings some comedy that actually does land pretty well. So this is a film that is awesome, and please just listen to me, guys, if you have not seen this film. And you are now one of those people that were like, wow, this film killed off John Connor. Wow, this is such a terrible film. This is easily the worst in the franchise. Just watch it, please. I'm begging you. I am begging you. Just watch it. I'm begging you. And choose for yourself. Because believe me, the people that are saying that this is like the worst one are just wrong. It is not even close to the worst in the franchise. That one is just complete wrong, the statement there. And now we have Prey. Ugh, I am bordering great. It's either great or awesome. I need to think about this. Because if we were going off the great stuff in this film, this is awesome. But if we were going off this, there's like one negative, and that is the thing about the way that they kill the Predator, and that is... there's one scene where he gets his helmet knocked off and he shoots it once, and the thing in the helmet is what guides it. So when it goes off, he just randomly shoots it and it nearly kills him. He nearly gets himself killed. I'm not a fan of that because he then does it again. He then gets it knocked off in the third act, and the hero realizes that, so she knocks it off. He fires it still, and then he gets shot in the head with it, and he gets killed. So I'm not a fan of that part, but I will say... I'll go great because I'm saving awesome for just the films that are just like 10 out of 10s, like in my top. Alien through whatever. Alien's my least favorite in the awesome tier, so I will say just spoil that for you. Everything else in there is just like top. Everything from Alien onward is just like top 20 of all time. I love Alien. I love all of it. So this is just such a great list. Well, mostly, except for what's in Bad and Awful. Really bad stuff in there. But I do really enjoy Prey. I think it's a lot more simplistic, which is like, I think that Terminator should stop going into such a big blockbuster action mode and really go back to the more simplistic stuff. Something that they have really been struggling with lately because The one time that they actually win back their audiences on Rotten Tomatoes with Dark Fate, it's then that the internet then decides to turn on them. It's hilarious. They cannot seem to please anyone. Now we have Terminator 2, Judgment Day. The definition of a perfect sequel, and something that, like, 99.8% of people, actually, yeah, 8% of people are in agreement that this is the greatest Terminator film and one of the greatest films of all time, and it goes in awesome. This is Predator. I know I love you, Predator, but please move. Oh, dang it. Hold on. There. So Terminator 2, it takes everything that the Terminator did, and it does it better. It's more action packed than the first one. The horror is just as good with, like, the things with the T-1000. The CGI is so much better. The effects are so much better. And there's one thing I could knock against the Terminator is that the effects age a bit, do not age as well as you would hope, but I do still love the Terminator regardless. And so T2, I love T2. There's a reason it is up there. I just think it's so amazing with its themes and its ending, where he's like, I know now why you cry, but it's something I can never do. And it's just so powerful the way you are crying and just, like, immediately running at the screen and then knocking into the screen and nearly getting yourself hit with a TV because you try to jump in because you're like, no, I want to get into that TV so I can stop Arnold from going in there because I care about Arnold. It's because they were so amazing with this character arc that they make something as dumb as a robot saying, I know now why you cry, but it's something I can never do.
I know now why you cry, but it's something I can never do.
I still get teary-eyed thinking about it. Pull yourself together, Ledger. Okay. Yeah, but I do love T2, and I love this film. I rewatch it all the time. It is by far the film I have rewatched the most on this list. I've rewatched it like a few times. Actually, no, not a few times. I've rewatched it like twice, I think. I'm rewatching it like right now, so after I get this done, I'm gonna... At the time I'm doing this, I'm recording this to where I will be watching Batman Begins after this, so this will be airing in about a week or two, so the timeline will be a bit off, but Hossa will know that I will have gotten the trilogy done, so, well, I hope so. Otherwise, I'm going to need to go back and kick future me for past me, but, I'm confusing myself again. Oh, time travel really is confusing. Sorry about the little cut there, but anyway, now we have James Cameron's Aliens, and this one goes up into awesome, and it will go behind Predator. Predator and Aliens are like that. They're my number 4 and 5 favorite film of all time. This is my number 5. Any day of the week they change. They are so interchangeable. These are perfect films. I'm gonna rewatch Aliens soon, as we will see which one gets ahead. So make sure to follow me on Letterboxd so you can see my review of that one. I usually just put on my entertainment scale, what the Rotten Tomatoes are, and and I give my stars of it. So be sure to check that out. But this film is easily one of my favorites of all time. I love it. It's absolutely awesome. I like how Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, she's a lot better in the way that she's a lot more maternal, where if you just change some things in the script with, like, giving her a different name than Ripley, you could have easily just cast a female, you could have just cast a male character and it would not have been different at all. But this one, it makes it to where she's a lot more maternal, and she feels a lot better in the role and much more grounded. And I love that about her. She's so much more well written. She was really well written in Alien, so I love her in this. She's fantastic. Newton Hicks are awesome. Hicks is just such a great character who's played by Michael Biehn. I think he might actually be a better character than Kyle Reese. I know that's a pretty hot take, but he's just so awesome. So I love Aliens. Easily one of my favorite films of all time. So it is an awesome, and it is definitely not being topped by few. It's going to be topped by very few films, and it could go above Predator in the future. But that's just my ranking of all the films that we have here of the Terminator franchise, the Alien franchise, and the Predator franchise. Make sure to put down in the comments what tiers would you place these films in. I know I had a few hot takes along the way, and I don't really care if these are my correct takes about especially T3. That is a completely correct take. No, saying that it's a good film is completely wrong. So I love all some of these films, and I hate some of them. So I am so happy that the good pretty much outweighs the bad, even if some of my favorites in this entire list were undermined by the third film in a franchise that was an inferior sequel. Much inferior, by the way. So I do love this. Make sure to comment your stuff down below. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like and share this video. Sharing is also what helps. It also helps other people realize who I am. So thank you all so much for this. This has been a great thing. I am loving this, and this has been a great job with the YouTube, and I can now say it. I've hit 500 subscribers. Yes! Thank you all so much for this achievement as well. So thank you all so much for this. I have loved this on YouTube. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a good one.
Hasta la vista, baby.